Hi, I'm Liz Rodwell, and I'm an assistant professor of digital media at the University of Houston.
And I'm Leandra Zarno, and I'm an associate professor of history at the University of Houston.
I am technology co-director for Sharing Stories, and I specialize in user experience.
And I'm a content co-director of the Sharing Stories project. And what we are going to talk about is our look and the impact of our website today, and specifically how we think about design and user experience.
So how did you get involved in the Sharing Stories project?
Well, I actually found out about the National Women's Conference by chance in graduate school about 20 years ago when I went to the library to the HQ section, was looking for a dissertation topic, and saw a book that was called What Women Want. And I thought that was really interesting, pulled it off of the shelf, and it was all about the National Women's Conference. And I thought, I am in graduate school for women's history, and I have never heard about this particular event. As a specialist in women in politics, I'm very aware that we think about political time as connected to the presidency. So all of our kind of ways we think about periodization and all of the ways that we think about values in power are related to that. And so what's really intriguing about the National Women's Conference is that we can reshape what is politics, how politics is defined, and think about, the very important work that people do in civic engagement at the local level all the way up to the federal.
This event was absolutely a cultural moment. And we can see that when we go through all of the artifacts that are left over from it. It's one of the more interesting UX projects that I've worked on, but very rewarding because we can see how our work, making it usable and efficient and effective and fun, really serves the people who are represented by the site.
You come to this work as an anthropologist. And so what excites you about the Sharing Stories project from the perspective of being an anthropologist?
Yeah, I feel like this is really an anthropology project. Like, we talk a lot in anthropology about visual or digital anthropology. And this is a collection of stories from people's own perspectives and biographies.
As we hit the 2020 centennial for women's suffrage, one of the big issues was that our original suffrage narrative was very white-centered and very middle-class-centered, and didn't really actually tell us, in our political memory of how many diverse women were involved in the suffrage movement. And part of that was because historians were not professionally trained or involved in actually establishing the first stories around suffrage. And so what we want to do is get it right at the get-go. And so this is a recovery project at the foundation to ensure that everyone involved, not just the notables, like the Bella Abzags, who was the presiding officer of this event, get their due. One of the things that I think is just so exciting about this particular project is that the aesthetic on our site, the way it looks, the design, which was originally crafted by a former UH student, Lola Babalola, total talent, really is coming straight out of the archive. And so at University of Houston, we're really lucky to have a pretty robust National Women's Conference archive. The Marjorie Randall papers are, that's a digital collection that's available to everyone. And one thing that was really exciting before our public launch in 2021, 2022 was to go back and forth and have these idea documents where we just took pictures and screenshots from the archive. We went into the archive and looked for design inspiration. And so what Lola did masterfully was, reimagine the 1970s aesthetic and the National Women's Conference aesthetic through the ephemera.
User experience is about revising as you go. So I think the sort of cliched saying in UX is test early, test often. And we want to test really as we enter early design stages. So this is essentially so that we don't have to undo what we did in the future. And so when we are just working with images or even sketches, we can ask people what they think, whether it makes sense for them, whether they understand the flow. And this is critical because we are constantly making changes, introducing new features. And Our search section is extremely complex. This would not have been possible to create effectively without having people try it out and tell us what of our design really works for them and what doesn't. We often talk about human-centered design in UX, and that's really the crux of it is, we are looking at the ways that different people approach technology based on their experiences, based on their access to different kinds of technology, and based on things like, real key values of the project, like accessibility and inclusivity.
And we also have this extreme commitment to sharing as we grow. And so that means, not only the open access, aspect of our site to share all of the data once it's published, but also to explain and to educate about the process. And so our About Project page, we have a whole range of documents that, explain the design side, the technology side, how we think about data and so much more.
I think from the technology side, we're able to make things work well to really bring your vision to life. And it helps that the technologists on our project are really humanists as well. So, I'm an anthropologist who also does technology work. And one of our other co-directors is a data humanist. So we really wear more than one hat.
Well, I think that from a humanist perspective, I have always been interested in my research in media and thinking about different ways in which we communicate. And so that really is enabled by our collaboration between technology and history. There's all of these different ways that we can tell essentially the same story and meet all of these different types of learners and really build knowledge in a way that just is not possible to do in a monograph or an article. So that aspect is really compelling, and also learning a new language. We have spent a couple of years really thinking about how to talk with one another about what we're trying to do.
Right.
And, things like codebook, which is basically a dictionary or a glossary of terms. Took a while to get comfortable with, but I'm so glad that I did, because I will never, think about websites the same way. They're so much more complex and nuanced and interesting than I ever imagined.
At least the good ones are.
Yeah, that's right. So I think ours is a pretty good one. So why don't we encourage people to come on to the Sharing Stories site?
Please visit our site, and you're welcome to get involved in the project. There are a lot of ways to do that featured on the site. We are at SharingStories1977, one word, .uh.edu. And we really hope to see you there. And we're here to answer any questions you have.
Thank you for joining us.